us with the responsibility of delivering services. I think some of us are aware that at some stage, some of our departments were on a prolonged strike. And one respects labor relations as provided in our legislative framework. But at the same time, that seems to have created an opportunity for many of us not to be at work. But apart from that, as we deliver services, are we sure that we adequately apply the mind, the heart, and the gut? Because I think in all instances, it is not one or the other. It is a combination of all of them. And so it is very critical that there should really be a turnaround in terms of the way the public service delivers. It so happens that as we're pondering these issues, there is Section 100 of the Constitution upon us. As you would know, some of the departments are under 1A and other departments are under 1B. We would like to see this as an opportunity. We would like to see this as an opportunity to make real the nature of our Constitution. We are a unitary state, as we all know. So it therefore presents an opportunity over and above the existing mechanisms such as min-max for us to work very closely with our counterpart national departments, all coordinated under the Department of Performance Monitoring and Evaluation. And I think the way we are approaching implementation of Section 100, 1B, and 1A and 1B, for me, bodes well for the future, with openness and the vigor with which we are approaching this. The opportunities for us to turn things around are quite enormous. However, I think our engagement should be a lot more aggressive. We should not be sitting here and waiting for national departments to call the shots. So I think after those remarks, let's just get into the substance of the issues that you would like to raise. As I said, I don't want to waste time by rehashing the points that I made in the legislature, but to give us an opportunity to engage.
Thank you very much, Premier. I am going to be taking the first 5 hands, and as I indicated, these colleagues just briefly indicate to us who you are and the media house you are representing. And straight to the question, no preambles. And as you have also indicated, let us not talk to too much details in terms of what the Premier has already indicated. I have noted you, Dulile, and I'm seeing a hand there at the back. The third one is you from ENCA, and then I am not to you as well. Okay, Tutang as well. Thank you very much. In that order, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Dulile Sobaka from the Daily Sun. Congratulations. I just have 2 questions. The first one is the concerns that I think you are also aware of, that people say you were working in the Premier's office, and therefore they put the blame to you as well for the mess that is there in the Premier's office and in the province. My second question, you've got your executive team here. Are you going to reshuffle them?
It's you, gentlemen. If you can please stand up so that we can hear you.
My name is Kholto Majai from News Agency in Joburg. My first question is, were you brought back after 25 years, having served as the Director General of the F12 to come and correct the 5 administrations that you have found and led the province?
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Is it good afternoon?
Yes,
yes, it is good afternoon. Good afternoon. Aldrin Simpier from ENCA. The first question, and this is taking, of course, from the speech that you delivered earlier on, is robust opposition in terms of oversight and the opposition has already started. The DA says that you are partly to blame for the NEPO IT contract. Do you think that your hands are clean when it comes to the signing of the contract? And then the final question is, have you met with the president of the country?
Thank you very much.
Congratulations, Premier. My name is Kaya from KSU International Radio. I've got a few questions. I just want to find out whether I'm going to continue with the programs from the former Premier, the one of ACT, BCSD, LHR, and And the second question is that our radio station deals much more on issues of tourism, but tourism education and all that. But we have noticed that the budget of tourism, in most cases, it has not been enough to market the products. Are you going to do something about it?
Okay, the last one from Mr. Yes.
No, I asked my question.
All right, thank you very much. We will be taking Amatilike's colleagues the last round in terms of the questions. We'll only have also 5. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Uzmanolo. The concerns around working within the office of the Premier, I suppose if you look at the entire provincial administration, if one were to take what is suggested by the question to the latter conclusion, it means all of these people must go. The nature of an organization is such that when you realize that there are gaps in the way you're doing things, you have the responsibility to correct those things. I'm not going to say to you that I was involved in the office of the Premier focusing on the School of Governance, and therefore I'm absolving myself from whatever is happening. I think that would be too childish to say that. Nor do I have to stand on a mountain top and say that these are the issues that I have continually been raising. The fact of the matter is we acknowledge the shortcomings in the administration, and we continue to engage, and we have been engaging around the issues how we could do things better. And you make recommendations, you make suggestions, and as is the nature of any organization, some of them see the day of light and others would not be implementable for one or the other reason. Having said all that, despite what my focus and responsibility has been, I think it is only correct to take collective responsibility. Yes, there is a leader, but I believe that there is leadership all over in any organization. As you are aware, I have just been sworn in, and I think it would be ill-advised to prejudge the matter with regard to the executive. We will be engaging. I'll be having one-on-ones with the executive, as well as assisted by the programs that they are delivering, performance reviews, and it is on the basis of these engagements that one decision or the other will be taken. So, in essence, perhaps it is too early in the day to respond to the question of the executive reshuffle. The question relating to being brought back. I'm a citizen of South Africa and a resident of the Northwest Province. Since we established the new administration in 1994, I have never left the province. I have, for instance, for a number of years, Premier Molefe, Popo Molefe, appointed me as the head of policy research, a very good practice in government, by the way. And I headed that for a good 10 years or so. So I've really never been away. Honorable Matimela will be will know that I worked for her at some stage when she was running Department of Economic Development, and so it goes on and on. So Northwest is my home, and it has continued to be that. The robust, Aldrin, your robust oversight. If I could just get clarity, what was your question related to that?
The question is related to a DA statement that they issued yesterday, and then they reiterated it this morning as well. And this is relation to the NEPO IT contract. They say that you signed a contract while you were an acting DG in the province, in the office of the Premier, and they've raised concerns around that.
I will have to check that. I'll have to check that, but I know for a fact that whilst I was acting Premier for 1 year, it was already at that time when we started discussing the question of the fragmented nature of ICT. Certainly a legitimate issue to handle, but subject to what the record says, I acknowledge that I was part of that concern about fragmentation of ICT. I mean, if you look at departments, virtually every department going its own route. If you look at public entities going their own routes, municipalities, certainly things should be done differently and better. How that is handled is another matter. You would see that the Auditor General has raised very serious questions about irregular expenditure, about procurement challenges, and so forth and so on. My response to that is, let's engage with the Auditor General process, and certainly those responsible will be identified and the necessary action will be taken. If I'm one of them, I think the right thing should be done. Have you met the President of the country? It certainly is a priority. In the coming days, I think I should do so. It only makes sense for one to do that. Programs from the former Premier. If you look at the programs such as the 5 concretes and other related initiatives, you will see from the branding that these are contextualized within the NDP, so that these initiatives are in no way a departure from national policy frameworks, and I do not envisage that there should be any drastic departure simply because the one Premier has departed and another has entered. I think what we need to do as part of ongoing program evaluation is to make sure that we situate what we're doing within the MTSF framework, which is a 5-year elaboration of the NDP, to just make sure that we are on course. Certainly, if you look at the intergovernmental relations framework, there is no way that any province could embark on any programs that fall outside of the framework of national policy. Is the budget of tourism too little? Are the budgets of all departments too little? Are the budgets of departments in the U.S. federal administration too little? Anywhere in the world, there's always what they call a budget constraint, where it doesn't matter how rich a country is, you always have the needs exceeding the resources available. I think that we should all accept that that is the principle that applies to all government, irrespective of the wealth base. Since tourism is part of the government's priority in terms of economic development, economic growth and development, I would agree that, as would be the case in other programs, that further assessment be done, whether or not adequate resources, relative distribution of resources is happening. I agree with you that we need to do a lot more to market the province that we are doing. I hope I've not left out any.
Thank you very much, NW Premier. Can we take the last less than 5 questions? I'm noting you, Ananias, a colleague from. Okay, I'm noting you, EWN, and yourself, number 3, number 4. You want to do a follow-up? Okay. Okay, those will be the last 2, then I'll bring in you from there. In that order.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Prof. My name is Ananias Ndlovu from Northwest News Online. Prof, I just want to check with you if you have any specific mandate from ANC as you come in. Any specific mandate? We know Northwest is not simply put headlines around the world. So we're talking about now, as other commentators labeled it as 3 centers of power. We've got the national government with the administrator, we've got you as the premier, still we've got another former premier as the chairperson of the ANC, some are saying up, still calling the shots somewhere. So I just want to check if you can collaborate those 2 things. Do you have any specific mandate to deal with this issue? And another thing that is trending online, is trending more than anything at your age. Does it concern you?
From Eyewitness News. My colleague raised pretty much what I was about to ask about the 3 centers of power. And in your speech earlier, you said you would do the work that needs to be done to regain the confidence of the electorate, and I guess then work back the ANC to where it needs to be. Much of what happened during the period where there was a call for Premier Mahumapelo to step down was said to be, I mean, I'm talking about the protest on the ground, which was service delivery protest, but was said to be politically motivated as well. So again, is how do you intend to go about this returning the confidence of the electorate in the African National Congress, if indeed you are not the chairperson of the African National Congress, and your relationship with Premier Mahumapelo, how is it if you are to align then your mandate, if there is one, and your way forward for the province?
Well, we're here for the Premier. Thank you.
From a Northwest Insider and colleagues with us. My questions are already to Nataro. As a new premier, are you ready for this position? And are you not stressed? As is been answered before, the open what I was so I'm not specifically on the allegations that are surfaced on your name. Question number 2. What motivated you to answer the call of filling Mahumapele's shoes? To notice something when you said the party is over. So I want the clarity when you say the party is over. The speech now, some after the corruption. And we are running multiple processes. So I will more specific in the party is over. You must start the moment really issue about America about the HIV, our local municipality was published there, corruption municipality. Can you be more specific in the party is over?
Alvin Simpia again from ENCA. On the issue around consequence management, as we said earlier on, that those who do not exercise the duties of consequence management are as well guilty as the perpetrators. Quite important what has happened in this province is the report of the IMC, the Interministerial Committee. Will you ask for that report to be given to you and use it as a basis of engaging with the MECs or the executives, and then exercise consequence management and whether it would include the former Premier of this province?
Thank you. The last one from you.
Again from National News Agency. Remoko, the tripartite alliance in the Northwest has been fractured, with the SNCP calling for the resignation of the former Premier. They have called for the realignment of the alliance, both provincially and nationally. Provincially, what are you going to do around that?
Thank you, colleagues. We'll take over this platform.
Thank you very much, Furolo. The specific mandate was simply to say restore confidence, hope, and bring about unity. You would appreciate that just given the issues that people have been raising and the way things appear within the state structures, that there is need for greater synergy, unity to be demonstrated in real within the communities. I think it is important for people to understand that in terms of its activities, its effectiveness, we do have a government in the Northwest province. That is how I understand the mandate very, very clearly. And maybe that one is linked to the second one about age. I'm just hoping that people are not wishing that they could die early, so that they don't have the joy of reaching the age that some of us are, because suddenly this has become such a priority. And I just wonder whether there is mischief behind this kind of question, or what the hell is happening. I mean, you go to other countries with much greater skills pool and people development. They have people much older than me, very, very active. And you want to say to South Africans, hey, retire at 50. From a productivity point of view, I would really appeal to you. Rethink. It's got nothing to do with me. Really, it has nothing to do with me. It boggles the mind, the frequency at which this question comes up. I am very proud to be 70. And I tell you, very fit. Very, very fit. I keep very healthy, can check my doctor, and also go to my house. You'll see what I do every day without fail. 2 centers of power.
3.
And relationship with the former Premier. There is no doubt that in our system of governance, the ideal situation is to have the 2 roles in one person. There's no doubt about that. But at the same time, one cannot argue and say, but Mokgoro, as Premier, when Rema Shatile was still chair, that there were serious problems. On the contrary, Gauteng emerged as well-functioning province. Not that they don't have challenges. They certainly, like any other province, have challenges. So having said that, that is the ideal situation. One has got to be very consciously ensuring that the level of maturity, the synergy, and the assertiveness of the 2 functionaries, the chair of the ANC in the province as well as the Premier, that those things are maximized. If we have principles of good governance, and the Premier has to insist on principles of good governance, the Premier must assert the authority related to that position. Similarly, the chairperson of the ANC. You know, if you look at political administrative interface, throughout the country, throughout the world for that matter. It's always a challenge. You clearly don't want to come up with a solution that says the minister must be the DG at the same time, so that you eliminate two centers of power. That's very, very ridiculous. So all I'm saying is the question of chemistry of relations, for as long as there are organizations in this world, whether you're talking about an organization called family, whether you're talking about a government department or a business enterprise, that kind of interaction between people is a reality of life. So the fact that we have different persons performing different functions here is neither here nor there. Does not mean that the heavens are going to descend on us simply because of that. Do I have a healthy relationship with the former Premier? Yes, I do. I have a healthy relationship based on maturity. Have we had differences in the past? Yes, but that were not, those were not meant for the mountaintop. I have a principle that I've always practiced. I've fought with my political principles in the past, but that was never for the world to know. It is in the four walls of the office, either my office or his or her office. That's how I do my things. Are you ready, stressed or not stressed? Just last night, two of my colleagues, and they are in this room, they were actually giving me instructions of what time to sleep. So, we are all fortunate. We never run short of counsel, good counsel from our colleagues. This is a collective effort. Citizens of this province are being called to action. And if we look at it and we treat it as a collective action, no single individual should be stressed overly. I am not going to start doing somebody's job because I feel that person is incompetent. No. The right things and right decisions have to be taken if that happens. What motivated you to answer the call? I've always seen public services, with good respect, you know a person called Muzalwan. You know how those people behave. I behave towards public service just like that. Because I cannot imagine myself being part of a system where it appears as though we are not alive to our environment, our surroundings. I like the public service. I have published extensively in the public service. I've created many leaders in various provinces and outside of this country. Not so long ago, I was in China. I met some of my products there. So this has been my life, either teaching it or practicing it. I cannot, let me deal with the partition. I feel extremely guilty to be part of a government system where you are told the majority of municipalities are dysfunctional. And you are part of this system where it looks like you are acquiescing to people being paid huge salaries, and it is patently clear they are doing no work. If you ask the municipal manager of this town, almost every morning I call him when I see dirt in the street. These days, and please, if he's not here, just tell him. He does not answer my calls. And that's not the way to do things, quite honestly. I call him out of concern as an ordinary citizen, but as the person who's got a role in government. For the simple reason that there are certain things that should not be, even if I'm not directly responsible, but because I'm part of the community of citizens there, I cannot understand why I should just pass. The other day I was visiting a colleague in the Department of Kosatna. As I entered the building, I had two sets of security or reception. They were totally ill-equipped to do that basic function. And lo and behold, as I was getting into the building, it was as if the toilet is spread all over the corridors. I spoke to senior managers and junior staff, and I gave them frank and open feedback. One time I was doing work in the presidency a few years ago. As I was entering the presidency, where the security would normally be, but also the reception duties, I noticed a very expensive furniture desk was dusty. I insisted I will not enter that building until somebody came and cleaned that place. And I told them, I will not allow my president environment to be like this. You can ask some of my colleagues, I'm forever talking about Haruna at meetings. Of course, nobody listens. A simple thing like derelict furniture, that could still be used for poor schools, for NGOs, and so on. You forever, as you enter some part of Haruna, you are forever met by very, eyesore things, desks and tables and what have you. I mean, we have absolutely no reason to be doing that. But do these things stress one? Yes, they stress one. But sometimes one gets energized by stress, by the way. And so, anybody who allows these things to happen, whether it is your direct responsibility or not, you regard yourself as being in a long-standing party. I think we must all take responsibility to say, no, this should not be done, this should be stopped. But for heaven's sake, there are those who are directly responsible to manage people. If a municipal manager is not doing his or her work, somebody must take responsibility and do something about it. So the party for me is not only at the time when social development was on a long strike or the time when health was on a long strike. It's just that ugly culture that has permeated our system. Consequence management based on the interministerial task team report. Yes, I think it is important that we should know what are the contents of the report. There is some report which was presented. Unfortunately, we stumbled into it through social media, which was really unfortunate. But having said that, I think it is very important. Earlier on, you asked me about changing the executive, and I said, but one has to do that on a uniform basis. This will be part of the information that one will have to look at. There was a question of tripartite alliance and fractured relationships. I think Tumamina has made the point very clear in giving marching orders to the country. As recently as yesterday, I was at Lutuli, and one of the meetings I attended was Alliance Secretariat. Now, you all know that not so long ago, such meetings, such engagements were a pipe dream. And these things are happening. In the province, I engage with various colleagues within the ANC, within government, within the alliance. My sense is that things are moving in the right direction. I think you have matured men and women who are leading these structures and who understands the importance of coherence. And I think, we're moving in the right direction. I think we've been all of that, the list of questions.
Thank you. Colleagues, we have come to the end of our session, and as I thank you for honoring our invitation, I am also expecting that as we will be inviting you in our future engagements with the Premier, you will honor the invitation as we have done today. Thank you very much. We are going to be taking a group photo for the Premier and members of the Executive Council, and I am also inviting you for lunch, light lunch, which is going to be served at Harona building, the opposite building. As you leave the legislature building, use the immediate door you're going to see. At the executive boardroom is on the ground floor. We will show you the directions and drive back home safely, colleagues, and let's communicate the messages as it has been presented to us by the Premier. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.